All right, let's dive into Billie Eilish's Birds of a Feather. We're going deep on the lyrics and the production today.
Sounds good.
Get ready to hear this song in a whole new light, hopefully.
Yeah, it's interesting how Eilish takes this common saying, birds of a feather flocking together, and turns it into something uh, deeper. It's about relationships and how they can be complex, even with people who seem just like you.
Yeah, for sure. And, the lyrics themselves are just so raw and honest. I mean, that's what really gets me, right? It's like she's right there with you.
Totally. Yeah, that's how I feel. And it's the production too. Like take the percussion. There's not a lot there.
Right.
It's really stripped back. And that, I think, puts the focus on her voice, on her vocals. It makes it feel so intimate.
Yeah, and she uses those layered vocals really effectively, almost like each layer is a kind of representing a different part of a relationship.
Right, exactly. It's like relationships aren't just like one thing. They're all these different layers and, experiences and emotions.
And and that connects to what you were saying before, about how people can feel isolated even when they're in a relationship.
Exactly.
It's like she's tapping into something universal there, like that pressure to conform, like to be a certain way in a relationship.
Yeah. And the expectations
Yeah.
too.
The weight of those expectations.
And just that struggle to actually connect with someone authentically. And she captures that perfectly.
Yeah, she does. And she uses these incredible images in her lyrics too. I mean, that line, "We were birds of a feather, but we flew in different weather." It paints such a vivid picture, right?
Yeah, totally. You're right there with her. It's like, two people on different paths, even if they started out similar.
Right.
There's that disconnect.
Yeah.
And then there's that other line, the sky was bruised purple, mirroring the ache in my chest. It's like, it's a visual, but it also describes how she's feeling inside.
Yeah, exactly. It's more than just listening to words. It's like experiencing it with her. And the song's so dynamic emotionally too. One minute it's soft and thoughtful, the next it's like this burst of emotion.
Right.
It's intense.
It's so unpredictable. And isn't that kind of how relationships are? You never know what's coming next.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's interesting because that minimalist production style, it actually makes those emotional moments hit even harder.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing to distract you. You're just right there in it.
Yeah, totally. It's like she's whispering those secrets, those raw emotions right to you. It's powerful stuff.
It really is. And I think it's that vulnerability, that honesty that makes the song so relatable. Because we've all been there, right? We all crave connection, but relationships are hard. They're messy. And she's not afraid to show that.
That's what makes it so compelling. Yeah, it's like she's giving us permission to feel those things, right? To not have it all figured out. And that's so important, I think. But then, the song goes even deeper than that. Like, it's not enough to just find people who are similar to you, right?
Yeah.
Your flock, your birds of a feather. It doesn't mean everything's going to be perfect.
Exactly. Like even when you find those connections, you can still run into problems.
Yeah, you can feel misunderstood. You can feel alone, even when you're surrounded by people who you think should get you.
And it's interesting how the music kind of reflects that too, right?
Yeah.
That stripped down sound, that intimacy. It's like it reinforces the feeling of vulnerability in the lyrics.
Yeah, totally.
Like with so little instrumentation, it's almost as if she's inviting you into this really personal space,
Yeah.
a quiet conversation where she can just be honest about how she's feeling.
It's like, this is me. This is the real me.
Yeah.
And there's something so powerful about that honesty, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. It's what makes the song so relatable.
Yeah.
Because, we've all felt those things, that longing for connection,
Yeah.
the struggle to live up to expectations. It's part of being human, I think.
Yeah, and it's definitely part of relationships too.
Mm.
Speaking of which, I'm curious to hear more about how the song explores that, that duality of connection and disconnection. You were talking earlier about how even when you're with people who seem like they should understand you, there can still be that sense of isolation. Like,
Yeah.
how does that play out in the song?
It's it's almost like she's showing us both sides of the coin. On the one hand, there's that idea of belonging, of finding your tribe, your birds of a feather.
Right.
But then on the other hand, you have the reality that even in those close relationships, things can be complicated. You can still feel misunderstood, like you're not being seen.
Right.
Like connection doesn't automatically mean that everything's easy or that you'll never feel lonely.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important message, especially these days when we're constantly bombarded with images of like perfect relationships,
Totally.
birds of a feather. It's like, it's a reminder that it's okay to acknowledge the messiness, The parts that aren't always pretty.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not about finding a perfect flock or having a perfect relationship.
Right.
It's about accepting that there will be ups and downs, and that's okay. It doesn't make the connection any less real or any less valuable.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's not about finding the perfect people. It's about appreciating the complexity that exists in all relationships.
And maybe, just maybe, it's also about recognizing that even when we feel like we're alone, like we're flying solo, there are other people out there who are going through the same things.
I love that.
You know?
It's like even in those moments of isolation, we're not really alone.
Yeah.
Would you say that's kind of the core message of Birds of a Feather?
I think it's definitely a big part of it, yeah. It's about understanding that even though relationships can be tough, we're all in this together. And there's comfort in that, I think.
It's a very human message, and it's so universal. And it's not just the lyrics, it's the whole package, right? It's the music, it's Billie's voice, the way they all work together to create this emotional world that we can step into as listeners.
It's a great example of how music can make us feel seen,
Yeah.
Like it's like someone understands what we're going through.
Absolutely.
And speaking of feeling seen, I think it's worth talking about how that theme of vulnerability is woven throughout the entire song.
Yeah.
Not just in the lyrics, but in the production, too.
Yeah. It's like by stripping everything away, the music itself becomes vulnerable, too.
Right. You're left with just her voice and those lyrics. It's raw,
Totally. It's like she's saying, this is it. This is me. Take it or leave it.
Exactly. And there's strength in that, too, isn't there?
Yeah.
In being that open and honest.
Yeah, there is. It's like she's saying it's okay to be vulnerable, to not be perfect. And that's a powerful message, especially in a world where everyone's trying to present this like flawless image all the time.
Yeah, for sure. And Birds of a Feather, it's like an antidote to that. It's a reminder that the real connections, the meaningful ones, they come from those imperfections.
Yeah, from letting people see the real you. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Birds of a Feather, what are the key takeaways here? What do you hope our listeners will take away from this conversation?
Well, I think the most important thing is to remember that relationships are complicated. And that's not a bad thing. It's just part of life.
Right. It's okay to feel all those different things. The joy, the frustration, the connection, the disconnection. It's all part of it.
Yeah. And it's okay to not have all the answers, to not have it all figured out.
Yeah, that's so true.
And maybe, just maybe, knowing that other people are going through those same things, feeling those same feelings, can make it a little easier.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that sense of shared experience, right? Knowing that you're not alone.
Exactly.
Well, that's a beautiful thought to end on. And what a powerful song to explore these themes. I mean, the way Billie Eilish combines the lyrics, the vocals, the production, it all comes together to create something truly special.
Yeah, I agree. It's a song that stays with you.
So to our listeners, next time you listen to Birds of a Feather, really pay attention to how it makes you feel. Think about which lyrics resonate with you, how the music enhances those emotions, and how the song's message connects to your own experiences and relationships.
Because I think at the end of the day, that's what good music does. It starts a conversation. It makes us think, and it helps us feel a little less alone in the world.
And that's a powerful thing.
If you're interested in diving deeper into the world of music, be sure to check out Music Deep Dive on YouTube. All right, please like, comment, and subscribe.